So think about the year 1999 for a second.
Oh, wow. Going way back.
Yeah, way back. A website launched, and it had this completely unreadable, cluttered, just entirely gray text-based interface.
I think I know where you're going with this.
You definitely do. And if you look at it today, it still looks almost exactly the same.
Yeah, no smooth animations at all.
None. No gorgeous color palettes, nothing. But Craigslist is worth billions, right?
Yeah.
It just absolutely dominates its market.
It really does. It's a powerhouse.
But then on the flip side, we've all done this. You download a beautiful, super modern app.
Oh, yeah, like something that belongs in an art museum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It looks amazing, but then you find yourself completely incapable of doing something as simple as, like, resetting a password.
Right, the form just doesn't work.
It's maddening. So welcome to the Deep Dive, learner. Today, we are answering a massive, literally multi-billion-dollar question.
It really is the ultimate paradox of the tech industry.
It is. Why do these quote-unquote ugly tools often rule the world, while beautiful apps just constantly fail us?
Well, we're looking at a really insightful article today by Tobias Reidenhag.
Yes, the head of design at Intunio.
Right. And he argues that this paradox exists because companies fundamentally misunderstand the DNA of digital products.
Which is such a bold claim, but when you read it, it makes so much sense.
It really does. Because, I mean, we hear these acronyms constantly, right? UX, UI, product design.
No, all the time.
Yeah.
In meetings, pitch decks, job descriptions.
Exactly. But they're routinely treated as interchangeable buzzwords. Or, honestly, even worse, as like this assembly line of isolated tasks.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if you are listening to this, you likely already know what the acronyms stand for.
Yeah, you know UX is user experience.
Right. And UI is user interface.
Yeah.
You don't need a vocabulary lesson from us.
Definitely not.
But what Reidenhag's piece reveals is that treating these disciplines as just definitions or separate job titles is actually a structural failure.
A massive one.
Yeah. So whether you're building a product, working with the design team, or you just want to understand why your favorite app functions the way it does.
Or why it's so frustrating to use.
Exactly. Understanding these roles isn't just about semantics. It's about understanding how things are actually built to survive in the real world.
Surviving contact with reality. That is the operative phrase here.
Because it gets messy. Right?
Oh, absolutely. When an organization treats design as a series of disconnected phases, where one team does the research, hands it off to another team to make it look nice.
And then someone else just slaps a product design label on it at the end.
Right. The consequences are very real and very severe. You end up with surface-level execution, just decoration masking deep structural flaws.
And you don't find out about those flaws until it's too late.
Exactly. They usually only become apparent when the product is actually in the hands of the user, which is, frankly, the most expensive and difficult possible time to fix them.
So let's dive right into that invisible architecture, the first pillar. What happens when we strip away the visuals?
We get to UX.
Right. And the common trope here is that UX is just the wireframing phase.
Yeah, the stereotype of just research, analysis, and wireframes.
You interview some users, you drop some gray boxes to represent where the text goes, you hand the file over to the developers, and boom, you check the UX box.
And that is precisely the misconception that the source dismantles first.
I'm so glad he pushed back on that.
Me too. Because UX is really about how a product works for people in practice. It's the underlying logic.
Not just raw usability then.
No, not at all. It's about whether the tool is understandable and reasonable in its real-world context. It specifically governs how information is structured.
How the flows are connected.
Right. And how users actually understand what the system is doing and why it's doing it.
It has to actively support their decisions.
Exactly.
It reminds me of, well, think of a house. UX is the floor plan and the plumbing.
That's a great way to look at it.
Right. You don't necessarily see the plumbing when you walk in.
Yeah.
But if the kitchen sink is installed in the bedroom, the experience of living there is going to be terrible.
It doesn't matter how nice the paint is.
Exactly. The flow is structurally broken. But here is my frustration with how UX is treated in the wild.
Let me guess. Companies treat that floor plan as a one-and-done deliverable.
Yes. They treat it as a project phase.
What's fascinating here is that Reidenhag is adamant that UX is rarely ever done.
It's not just a checkbox.
No, it's an ongoing responsibility. You don't just map out the user flows on day one and walk away.
Because things change.
Constantly. User behavior shifts over time. New features get requested. The whole context of the tool evolves.
So it has to be present from those early decisions all the way to late-stage improvement.
Exactly. If UX is treated as a deliverable, Instead of a continuous perspective, the product starts degrading the moment it launches.
Wow. Because it stops adapting.
Right. It stops adapting to the reality of the user's environment.
Which perfectly transitions us to the next pillar.
Yeah.
We have the floor plan, the ongoing structure. Now, how do you actually interact with the house?
The UI, the user interface.
Right. The layout, typography, color, contrast, hierarchy, all the feedback states.
The stuff the user actually touches and sees.
But let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
If UX is the deep structural stuff, isn't UI just making things look pretty?
Yeah.
Like, is it really just the visual layer?
I hear that all the time, and it is a dangerous simplification.
Oh, really?
Yes. Calling UI the visual layer completely strips away its functional imperative. UI is highly functional.
Okay, break that down for me.
According to the source, a well-designed UI makes it instantly clear what matters right now. It has very little to do with just making things look pretty.
So it's guiding the user.
Exactly. It helps the user do the right thing without thinking too much. It uses contrast and spacing to drastically reduce cognitive load.
And that creates consistency over time.
Right, so you don't have to relearn the tool every time you log in.
So an unclear interface can absolutely ruin a solid UX structure.
Oh, 100%. It doesn't matter how good the logic is if the user can't read the buttons.
It's like the dashboard of a car. If the check engine light is just this tiny low-contrast gray dot hidden behind the steering wheel, that is a catastrophic UI failure.
A huge one.
It doesn't matter if the underlying UI, like the actual sensors in the engine, are working perfectly. If the interface fails to communicate that information, your engine still blows up.
That is a perfect analogy, and the source points out that this scales up to incredibly high-stakes environments.
Like what?
Think about advanced internal tools or business-critical software or, a monitor used by an ICU nurse.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
In those environments, the interface isn't just a digital brochure, it's a working tool. It's a decision support system.
So small ambiguities have massive impacts.
Exactly. A button that looks clickable but isn't, or a critical alert that lacks visual contrast that doesn't just cause momentary frustration.
It causes real errors.
Right, and it destroys trust in the system. For products used intensively, UI is the critical factor in perceived quality.
You really can't just add design at the end.
No, you really can't.
Okay, so we have these two powerful forces, structure, which is UX, and interaction, which is UI.
Right.
So who oversees this whole ecosystem? Here's where it gets really interesting.
Product design, but not as a brand new, isolated discipline.
Right, the source frames it differently.
He describes product design as a unifying term. It's the master conductor, taking responsibility for the product as a whole.
It's a massive balancing act, because product design has to weigh three giant elements in the real world: user needs, business goals, and technical constraints.
And those three things are almost always in conflict.
Always. The user wants the software to be lightning fast and free.
Right.
The business wants to collect data to monetize, and the tech team is just trying to keep the legacy code base from crashing.
That triangulation is the actual job of a product designer. They aren't just an advocate for the user, they have to mediate those competing forces.
So they move fluidly between all these different tasks.
Exactly. In practice, a product designer shifts between analysis, structure, interaction, and granular detail constantly.
Whatever the product needs at that moment.
Right. On Tuesday, they might be doing deep UX analysis. On Wednesday, they might be adjusting the UI typography to make a feature intuitive. They adapt entirely.
Okay, but in a perfect world, this sounds like a neat, orderly assembly line. How does this actually survive contact with reality?
Well, the short answer is the assembly line model consistently produces terrible software.
Because the sequence is a myth.
Yes, the theoretical sequence of first UX, then UI is completely unrealistic.
It's messy.
Very messy. It's a continuous loop. Insights you gain while designing the visual interface often invalidate the structural assumptions you made earlier.
Right, like tech constraints limit the interaction, or business decisions force interface changes.
Exactly. Imagine you design a complex data table during the UX phase. The logic is totally sound.
Okay.
But then you move to the UI phase and you try to apply typography on a mobile screen and you realize the data is totally illegible.
Oh, man. So you have to go backward.
You have to. You have to rethink the underlying UX structure, maybe break the table into cards. But if your company uses a rigid sequence, going backward isn't allowed.
Because the UX phase is closed.
Right. So you end up shipping a broken mobile experience.
Which brings us to some dangerous misconceptions. Let's rapid fire through the common ones from the source.
Let's do it.
Okay, first one. UX is research. UI is visuals.
We touched on this, but if you ignore structure early on, trying to fix it visually later almost never
It's
works.
like painting over a cracked foundation.
Exactly.
Okay, next one. We only need UI right now.
Oh, this is usually a giant red flag.
Why?
Because it means important UX questions are being ignored, usually because of a lack of time or mandate. You're building without a plan.
Right. Next, having product design as a title, but without any actual responsibility.
This one is toxic. If design responsibility doesn't come with actual authority, the real decisions get made completely outside the design process.
Usually by executives or engineers who aren't thinking about the user at all.
Precisely. You're just executing someone else's unexamined ideas.
Okay, last one. What about the explosion of specific job titles? UX researcher, UI engineer, interaction designer.
Hmm.
Doesn't that create clarity?
Actually, more titles don't create clarity at all.
No.
No. The tech industry's obsession with throwing new titles at similar responsibilities just proves how cross-disciplinary this work actually is.
We're chopping up the responsibility so small that nobody owns the whole product anymore.
Exactly. You can't separate the interaction from the visual or the visual from the structure.
So how does Intunio, the company Tobias works for, actually approach this?
They push back against that hyper-specialized model entirely.
By doing what?
By working across the full spectrum, they adapt their focus to what the product needs.
So they treat design as an integral part of how the product works, not a late-stage add-on.
Right. It's held simultaneously by a unified team. Sometimes deep UX research is the priority, and later, getting a tiny UI interaction perfectly smooth is the focus.
They fluidly shift resources.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? If we synthesize this for you, the listener, these aren't rigidly isolated roles.
Not at all.
They're not a sequential checklist. UX is how it works for people. UI is how it communicates. And product design is taking responsibility for the whole thing.
And if there's one quote from the text that really nails this, it's this. Design is not a deliverable, it is an ongoing responsibility.
That completely changes the paradigm.
It does. If we connect this to the bigger picture, holding these perspectives together is literally the only way to build products that align user needs with business goals over time.
It's about managing a living ecosystem, not a static object.
Exactly.
Which leaves us with a really provocative thought for you to mull over.
I love this part.
If design is truly an ongoing responsibility, right, and it's never actually done because it's always adapting,
Yeah.
at what point does a product stop belonging to the company that designed it and start belonging entirely to the users whose daily habits are continuously shaping its future?
Oh, that is a fascinating question. The moment it goes live, you kind of lose control.
The users become the co-designers.
They really do, whether the business likes it or not.
A terrifying thought for some, I'm sure. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive, learner.
It's been great unpacking this.
Absolutely. So the next time you open an app, whether it's beautifully intuitive or incredibly frustrating, look a little closer. See if you can spot that invisible structure beneath the surface. Catch you next time.